تاخذ من السلايد.
Now starting with the first exercise, and this first exercise is about measurement of different parameters. Measurement of different parameters from a simple muscle twitch. This is called simple muscle twitch or SMT. Simple muscle twitch or SMT. Let's first consider two terminologies. One is called twitch and the other is called tetanus. Twitch and tetanus. Twitch means response of the muscle to a single stimulus. Response of the muscle to a single stimulus, this is called twitch. Whereas response of the muscle to multiple stimuli, many stimuli, maybe 50 stimulus per second, 80 stimulus per second, 100 stimulus per second, it is called tetanus. So tetanus means response of the muscle to multiple stimuli, whereas twitch means response of the muscle to single stimulus. Now, today we will consider only the twitch part. Leave the tetanus, just remember its definition. In case of twitch, that is response of muscle to single stimulus, the shape of the muscle response, it will be of two types. In one case, the response will be in the form of single lines like this. Whereas another form of response is in the form of a curve like this, as it is shown here in the picture. Now when we can get the curve and when we can get the response in the form of a single line. The only difference, this is also single muscle twitch, this is also single muscle twitch. But the difference in their shape is because of the fact that if you record the muscle response by keeping the paper fixed or by keeping the paper moving, this makes the difference. If the paper on which you are recording the response of the muscle, if you keep this paper fixed, not moving at all, then you will get the response in the form of single lines. But if you keep the recording paper in movement, just like the ECG paper moving, so if you keep the recording paper moving and then record the muscle response, you will get the response in the form of a curve like this. So both are responses of the muscle to single stimulus, but the difference that whether it is in the form of a single line or in the form of a curve is mainly because of the movement of the paper, and here we keep the paper moving at a particular speed. That's why we got the response in the form of a curve. But if you keep the paper fixed, then you will get the response as a single line. This is the only difference. Now when you got the response in the form of a curve, then from this curve we can measure many different parameters. Many different things we can measure from it. To start measuring, the first thing to remember is that
أقول لك إيه قرب كيف قرب كيف
when we are recording the graph or recording the muscle response on a kymograph, using a kymograph, then first what we make a line which is called point of stimulus. Point of stimulus. Here it is shown by this line, point of stimulation. When the point of stimulation is there, what will happen? That as the paper will move and come to this point, automatically the machine will give an electrical stimulus to the muscle, and the muscle will respond and we will get a curve. So the point of stimulus will be there before the recording of the curve. Now when the curve is recorded and you have to measure different parameters, first what you have to do, that take a scale and first mark a line here at the base. Like this. Now here you can see that when you mark the baseline, initially the curve runs along the baseline till this point. What happened at this point? At this point, the curve starts separating from the baseline, separated, because it is going now up. So you will mark this line at this point where the curve starts separating from the baseline, and this period between the point of stimulation and the first line, this will be called latent period. This will be called latent period, as it is shown here. This is the point of stimulation. Here where the curve is separating from the baseline, a line is marked, and this period between these two, this is called latent period. And what is latent period? Latent period is that period during which the muscle prepares for contraction. Or you can say that the time period between applying of the stimulus and the start of the muscle contraction, this gap, this is called latent period. And why during this gap, what will happen? During this gap, when electrical current applied, it will spread to the muscle, calcium will release, ATP will be activated, active sites of actin filament will be exposed. So all the preparation will be made for muscle to contract. So that's why during this time the curve remains on the baseline, and after this time it starts going up, which means now the contraction starts. After this latent period, now come to the upper part of the curve, top of the curve, and we will mark a line at the top of the curve as well, similar to the baseline. Now here again you can see that at this point and at this point the curve is in contact with the top line, and beyond this point, at this point, it is separated from the top line. So the point from where above also the curve is separating from the top line, we will mark 2 points, and then we will join these 2 points with the baseline. With the baseline. Now here in this case, the period horizontally, that is this one, between this line and this line, this period, it is called twitch peak duration. Twitch peak duration. Peak means maximum. Twitch peak duration means that time period during which the muscle contraction will remain fixed at a certain point, not going further up, not coming down. Here you can see it is moving up and up and up and up, reaches this point. Now after reaching this point, there is no further rise or no further decrease. It remains at this point for some time, and then it starts coming gradually down and down and down. So this time period for which the muscle after reaching a maximum point remain fixed at this maximum for some time and then it starts coming down, this period is called twitch peak duration, and it is between these 2 lines. However, the distance between the top line and the baseline, this distance, this will be called twitch height. It will be called twitch height. So this distance, this is called twitch height. Twitch height yani the maximum height up to which the curve moves. So vertically you will measure twitch height and horizontally you will measure twitch peak duration. Then come to the baseline again, and at the baseline this is the first line of the twitch peak duration. So extend this line down, and this is the second line of twitch peak duration, also extend it down. Between the first line of twitch peak duration, which one is the first line? This one?
No.
This one?
Yes.
Okay. So between this line, first line of twitch peak duration, and the second line of the latent period, this time period, this is called twitch contraction time. Why? Because during this time the muscle is keep on contracting. And the time period between the second line of the twitch peak duration, this one, and the point where the graph again reaches to the baseline, this point. So this time period, this is called twitch relaxation time. So 5 parameters we can measure at the baseline latent period, between the point of stimulation and the point from where the curve separates from the baseline. Between the second line of latent period and first line of twitch peak duration, contraction time. Between second line of twitch peak duration and the point where the curve reaches to the baseline again, this is relaxation time. And between the top line and the baseline, this is the twitch height, and between these two lines, this is the twitch peak duration. So 5 parameters we can measure. Here latent period, here contraction time, this is the first line of twitch peak, this is the second line of latent period, so this is contraction period. Second line of twitch peak, this is point where the curve reaches to baseline, so relaxation time or period, and this time, this is the twitch peak duration. Okay. And this is I, the blue one. So 5 parameters we can measure. Now here in this case, what we did, that we simply point out or outline that this much is the latent period, this is contraction, this is relaxation. But we still not measure them, that how much they are. For the measurement will be very easy if the graph is there on a kymograph paper. Because kymograph paper will have these squares. So it will be easy for you to count 1, 2, 3 squares, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 squares like this. And here in this case, when the squares are there and you are using the kymograph paper, then here 1 square is equal to 1 millimeter. So you can count the number of squares and you can say 2 millimeters, 5 millimeters, 8 millimeters, whatever may be. And during counting, the whole square is counted 1. But suppose if a square is there, for example here the line is in the center of the square. So what you will do? You will count it or not? Not half. What you will do, that if this is the square, if the line is here, means half or more than half square is included, then you will count it as 1. But if the line is here, less than half, then you will leave it. Don't count. So if half or more than half of the square is included, count it as 1. But if less than half, then leave it. This is the simple principle. But what will happen if the graph is like this on a plain paper? Here there are no squares. Plain paper. So how you will count? In this case, you will take the help of a scale. First you will mark the different areas, and then with the help of the scale you have to measure that how much millimeter is each period. Latent period, how much millimeter, contraction period, relaxation period, twitch height, twitch peak duration, how much millimeter, just by the help of the scale. Okay? Clear? Now here comes another question, that you are measuring in millimeter and you are saying contraction time, relaxation time. We never measure time in millimeters. We always measure the time in seconds or minutes or hours. So how it is possible that you measure the time in millimeter? For that purpose, you have to convert your values of millimeter that you measure into seconds. And to convert them into seconds, for this conversion, you have to find out that what is the paper speed, with which speed the paper was moving while the graph was recorded, while the curve was recorded. In the kymograph, there is a possibility that you can adjust your paper at different speeds. Maybe 400 millimeter per second, maybe 500 millimeters per second, maybe 300 millimeters per second, any speed. But usually, while recording the simple muscle curve, we keep the paper speed at its maximum, and the maximum speed is 625 millimeters per second. So remember that the maximum speed at which a kymograph paper can move is 625 millimeters per second. This is maximum. But not necessarily you can use maximum, you can use 500, you can use 400 as you like. But usually to get a proper curve, we put it on 625 millimeters per second. Now suppose that the paper speed in this case is 625 millimeters per second. Yani in 1 second 625 squares are covered, because 1 square is equal to 1 millimeter. So how many squares, or if 625 in 1 second, then how much time period for 1 square? So 1 square will be equal to 1 upon 625. And if you divide 1 second by 625 millimeters or squares, the value becomes 0.0016 seconds. It means that now we calculated that this 1 square is equal to 1 millimeter and 1 millimeter is equal to 0.0016 seconds. Now once you calculated the time period of 1 square, that is 0.0016 second, now you can count that in latent period there are 1, 2, 3 squares, that is 3 millimeters. So latent period will be equal to 3 multiplied by 0.0016, it becomes 0.0048 seconds. So now you can say that the latent period is 0.0048 seconds. Similarly, you have to count the contraction time, how many millimeters here, and then multiply it by 0.0016, you will get the contraction time in seconds. Similarly for the relaxation time, similarly for the twitch peak duration. So taking the paper speed and from that calculating how much is the time period of 1 millimeter and 1 square, we can then multiply the number of squares in each period by that time, we will get the time of each period. But here remember one thing very important, that this time period 0.0016 second is not a fix. It is not constant. It will be vary, because suppose I say that the paper speed used to record the curve is 500 millimeters per second. Then you will not use this value. You have to calculate the value from 500. That is 1 divided by 500, it will be 0.002 seconds. So this is difference and this is different. So you have to in every case check first that at what paper speed the curve is recorded. And using that paper speed, you have to count down you have to calculate the time period of 1 millimeter and then use that figure for multiplication. Don't use this 0.0016 in every case. It is only when the paper speed is 625 maximum. Okay? So in a single muscle twitch or single muscle curve, you have to do three things. Number one, you have to mark the lines to identify the different periods, and secondly, you have to calculate out the time period of each millimeter, and thirdly, you have to calculate out the time period for each parameter. Then coming to the fourth point, you have to do a fourth point as well, and that fourth point is that you have to find out the force generated by the muscle. Force generated by the muscle. This is the curve that we recorded, but we don't know here that to make a curve like this, the muscle generated how much force, and the force generated by the muscle is recorded in grams per centimeter square. Remember the unit, grams per centimeter square. How to calculate the force generated by the muscle? There is a formula, and the formula is muscle length multiplied by twitch height multiplied by voltage divided by muscle weight. Muscle length multiplied by twitch height multiplied by voltage divided by muscle weight. This formula will give you how much force is generated by the muscle in grams per centimeter square when you apply a single stimulus to the muscle. Now from where you will get these things? First, yeah. Muscle weight. From where you will get these things? First one is the muscle length. To get the muscle length, here in this picture you can see that this is our apparatus or our clamp or muscle chamber, whatever you can say, where the muscle is fixed. So what you do, that after recording the graph, you take a divider, farjal, and with the help of this divider, you can measure how much is the length of the muscle. And then putting this on the scale, you will come to know that how much centimeters is the length of the muscle. 5 centimeter, 10 centimeter, 15 centimeter, whatever. Between the 2 points of its attachment. So from here your apparatus, where you have fixed the muscle, you can find out the muscle length. Number 2 is the twitch height. Twitch height you already measure here from the graph. So you already know 10 millimeters, 15 millimeters, 20 millimeters, whatever may be. Thirdly is the voltage. Voltage means how much current you are applying to the muscle. So from the kymograph, that is your machine, your apparatus, you can find out that how much is the current applied. 5 millivolt, 10 millivolt, 15 millivolt, 2 millivolt, whatever may be. And finally, after finding out all the three things, you already have the graph as well. Now you take out the muscle. And after taking out the muscle, first remove the tendon part and the bony part. Both the bone which is attached and the tendon which is attached, remove them. and then dry the muscle by a tissue paper. Soak. And then put it on a weighing machine and measure the weight of the muscle. 10 gram, 15 gram, 20 gram, 30 gram, whatever. So now you have all the 4 parameters, that is the muscle length at which the graph is recorded, number 2 twitch height from the graph, number 3 voltage from your kymograph, and number 4 muscle weight after taking out the muscle and removing the tendon and the bony part and drying the muscle. Once you find out all these 4 things, now simply multiply the above 3 and whatever the product divided by the muscle weight, you will get the force generated by the muscle in grams per centimeter square. So remember that along with the force generation, writing of the unit is lazim. Without unit, the answer will be wrong. Whether you calculate correctly or not, without unit it will be wrong. So don't forget to write the unit, which is grams per centimeter square. Why gram per centimeter square? Because we are using here frog muscle or rat muscle, which are small muscles. So that's why gram per centimeter square. But if you are using muscle of the rabbit or any large animal, then you can use kilogram per centimeter square as well, because the muscle weight is more in that case. But here the muscle weight is small, so that's why we are considering as gram per centimeter square. So 4 things you have to find out from a curve if you are provided like this. Number 1, you should to know how to outline, how to demarcate the different areas. Which one is latent period, which one is contraction period, which one is relaxation period, twitch peak duration and the twitch height. Number 2, measure them in millimeters and then convert millimeter into time, seconds, and then measure all the periods in time, except twitch height. No need to measure twitch height in time, twitch height in millimeters. And finally, you should be able to use this formula to calculate the force generated by the muscle in gram per centimeter square. So this is for your homework, to calculate it and put it in your files. I already mentioned here the paper speed, the muscle length, the muscle weight and the voltage, so that you can calculate the force generation also. Here in the formula, as the same formula is used for tetanus as well. So that's why it is given twitch oblique tetanus height. Twitch oblique tetanus. So forget about tetanus, you are concerned only with the twitch. Okay? Yes. Twitch height. Twitch height, very simple. When you mark the top line and you already mark the baseline, this one, from top to base. This is the twitch height. And this horizontal between these 2 lines, this is the twitch height. Remember that twitch height will always be larger, twitch peak duration will be smaller. Unit of twitch height, millimeter, centimeter, whatever. If it is very big height, you can convert it in centimeters or otherwise in millimeters. Between muscle length and twitch height. This is the length of the muscle.